Hello and welcome to the Average Coder community. In this C# tutorial, we are going to talk about string data type and what using means. Right, let's begin from talking about what using means. So, as you probably already can guess, console, write line, and other functions, console write line, and other lines like it are functions and methods. But as you already know, you have to write them all. So if it's not written inside of your code, then how can you use it? Basically, you can use it due to using system. Uh, Basically, system is some kind of library that includes a lot of different functions. So what is library in programming? Library in programming is lots of written code, different functions, and so on that you can use them again. So for example, someone have already written code for you, and then you don't have to do then you don't have to write it code again. You can use just his own code. You can include this code by using system. So system is basic library. So if I comment the stroke and try to run code, then we go into end up with mistakes because console write line doesn't exist inside of my program, inside of my code. It exists inside of the system library. So I hope it makes sense. So now if I run it, I included code that is inside of my library, and that means that I included all different functions that are inside of this library, and that's the point why I can use this method. Now it's time to talk about string data type. It's one of the most important data types, and we have to give it some time, and we have to learn few functions that you need to know to work with this data type. So first of all, let's create string to variables. So first will be str first and second will be str second. Alright, so you have to understand that string is kind of similar to array. Basically, it's similar to char array. So if I create variables and after it I try to print, for example, 3. So what do you think gonna come out from it? So 0, 1, 2, 3. So it should print F. And as you may see, it printed F. Alright, so that was the main thing. Now let's do some work. So for example, str dot length, and let's run it. So length is going to show how much characters are inside of the string. So we can see 4 characters, then it should print out 4. And now let's look, and yes, we have 4 characters inside of this array. If we have different number of characters, then it's going to print another a different number, right? And don't confuse it with numbers that you have to put between brackets, right? Length and the index of the character inside of the array are different things, right? So now, next thing, and what does it do? So this function, you have to put between this function your string. So I put my string between this function, and if we run it, it's going to return false. Why is it so? So if you read the name of it, obviously that's going to return true if string is empty or equal null. So if I delete all of the characters outside of this string and try to run it, we're going to end up with true. But don't confuse empty and space, right? If we have space still considered as character. So if we run it, we're going to end up with false. So for this type of problem, we have a specific function, and it's called isNull or white spaces. So it's going to return true if it's white spaces. As many as you want, it's still going to return true, right? Or if it's null, I don't remember. Is it going to return if it's empty? So what is going to return if it's empty? So let's check out. Yeah, it's considered empty as true, right? So if it's empty, then it's going to return true. Alright, now let's do this function. So it have to take 2 parameters, and it's string 1 and string 2, and it will be string 1 and string 2. So if we run it, then it's going to return -1. Why it is so? Probably because the value of them are different. So RSDF, and let's run it, and if values are equal, then it's going to return 0. Any another number means that values aren't equal. So people often make mistakes by thinking that capital letters and not capital letters are the same. It's same for humans, but computer thinks that that's 2 different characters. So that's why it returned -1, because A and capital A aren't equal, isn't equal. So then ASDF small and ISDF capital aren't equal, because that's 2 different characters, right? Now let's talk about to lower. So what does it do? So it's going to take all characters inside of the string, check if they are capital, and if it finds something that is capital, then it's going to make it not capital. So we have capital ASDF, and return will be I'm sorry, I made a mistake. So pay attention where I put string between the brackets, and where I have to put it before the dot. We haven't talked about what it is yet, but we'll talk about it a bit later, and it's probably not right. So let's run it now, and as you may see, string 2, all letters are capital, but it returned small letters. If we do it with string 1, then nothing going to happen because that's no capital letters inside of the string. So, but if I put right here, for example, S, capital letter, and try to run it, then S going to become small. Alright? I hope it makes sense. So what upper does, basically it's does same thing but another way. So it makes small letters capital letters, transforms small letters to capital letters. So we run it, string 1, and each letter is capital from now on. Right, so the next function going to be contains. So what does this function do? So inside of this function we have to put variable, or we can write it just between this, so that variable have to be a string data type, or probably even make character work out, I don't know. Try it on your own. So let's put inside string s, and so what's going to happen? It's going to take this string and search for this thing inside of it. So if it finds anything, 1 or 2, it doesn't matter how many there are of them, it's going to return true. If there's no such character inside of this, then it's going to return false. So if I run it again, as you may see, string 1 don't have small s's, so that's the reason why it is false. But what if you want to find more than one character? Then you can write down a word or even sentence inside of it, and it will search for sentence or word. So it is good. So let's write is, and let's run it, and it's going to return true. So if it's even inside of, if it's written as one word, it's still going to return true, because there is 2 characters that stands right next to each other. So it finds characters and that stands right to each other, right? I hope it makes sense. Now let's start. Now let's talk about starts with and ends with. So it does same thing as contains, but the only difference that contains checks all string. Starts with going to check only from it's going to check from the beginning. So it's going to compare A and S with the words that are in the beginning. So it, for example, if it starts with S, then it's going to return false because SS doesn't equal AS. Alright? Same with ends with, but it's going to check out from the end. It's going to start from the end and check if the end of the string is similar to the thing that you have written inside of this brackets. Alright? So for example, over here again, it is good. Then let's run it, and it's going to return false because first two characters of the string is I and T. If we write it's still going to return false because the first letter is capital. If we write I as high, then it's going to return true. Now let's move to the next function. I hope that it's clear and I don't have to explain and with and show it on examples. You have to trust me. So now let's talk about insert function. So this is string that you're going to work with. Then you write insert function, or probably even better to say method, and it takes two parameters. These parameters are it should be actually a number. So it's going to work with you may think about this number as index after what element or at place of which element you should on place of what element you should insert what you have written inside of the string. So for example, if I write 2, str2, then it's going to search so 1, 0, 1, 2, and at the place of 2 it's going to put the string, so it should be it asdf space is. I'm sorry, I made somewhere a mistake. Probably it is yeah. So as I said, capital letters and small letters does matter, even in functions, because variables that starts with small letter and variables that starts with a capital letter are different for computers. So it finds the second element and it inserted it beginning from the second index, right? So 0, 1, and space was on the 2, but it moved it a bit right and insert a on the second index and everything after it. Now let's talk about remove and replace function. So I'm sorry, I had to remember what you need to put between the brackets of this function. So it takes two indexes, and the first index is where you want to begin inside of this string, and another is where you want to end. So for example, if I write 2, 5, then it's going to look for the second element and it's going to remove from second, third, first, and fifth. So it's going to remove is and it 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And yeah, it's going to remove one more after it. So yeah, if we run it, we're going to end up at good If you put only one parameter between brackets of this method, then it's going to delete everything after the beginning from the second element of array. So it deleted everything. So if I even try to select it, it doesn't show that there is space in here. Alright, and the last function, and it is replace. So what is going to happen? This function what this function does, it takes the string, searches for the word, and if it finds it, then if it finds this thing inside of this string, then it's going to replace this thing with this string. So if we run it, it is good, it is good. So yeah, it found all it words inside of the string and replace it with the value inside of this variable with string data type, and it is s. Right. So that's all for this tutorial. So if you like this video, don't forget to comment, hit the notification bell, subscribe. See you later. Bye.